We are in the new book space. This is going to be the library. I'm waiting for my bookcases to go here. For now, we just have the TBR back here. I just got back from London town, and so in my new studio, I can do things like, what light through yonder window breaks? It is the East. Shakespeare-inspired fluffy shirt. Did I go to the Globe and watch a Shakespeare play? I did. And I know it's not the original Globe. It burned down. It was rebuilt. I don't care. It's still been there hundreds of years. And I watched a Shakespeare play in the same geographical place where Shakespeare did plays. Yay. Today we're going to talk about the 6 perfect gifts for the book lover in your life. Because I came back from London with like perfect gifts for everybody, and I'm known as being the perfect gift giver. I wanted to share that with you guys. There's just something so magical and fulfilling when you give people perfect gifts. But what we're focusing on is you getting the perfect book lover gift. Because if you're a book girly, how many times have you gotten a present that is book themed, meant well, but that you end up never using? Mugs with books on them, actual books that you are never going to read. We're going to fix that. You're going to share these 6 book gift ideas with your loved ones, and they are going to get you the exact kind of books that you would love to read. Yes, calm down. Wait a minute. I said books. I did say that you are going to tell people to buy you books. I know as a book person that it is dangerous to tell people to buy you books because we're very specific about the books that we love. And we don't want to be just given any books. But I promise you, if they follow these instructions, you will get the books you want to read and you will love them so much for it. Now, if they don't listen, you might end up with another pair of book themed socks. I can't control that. But if they do listen, you will be bragging about them all year long. They will be your favorite gift giver. The best gifts show that the gift giver knows you, that they paid attention, that they were listening to your crazy book rant, synopsis, whatever, even when it seemed like they weren't paying attention and they would really like you to leave them alone. They are taking the things that they know about you, about your bookish little heart, and they're melding that with their love for you and like making an alchemical reaction of the perfect book that you could not have even picked out for yourself. So let's get started. So the 6 book gift types that we're going to talk about are a gift supporting your dreams, a gift for your secret obsessions, a gift that shows that they pay attention, a whimsical gift, a practical gift, and a special gift, which is number 6. And by special, I mean special. A gift supporting your dreams is so powerful because sometimes we don't even believe in ourselves as much as we would like to. Like, dreams are scary. We're not sure if we can do them. We're not sure if they'll work out. And we're not sure if the way that we see ourselves is realistic. But when somebody else sees that same thing in you, or at the very least, they just want to support the things that you want to do with your life, it just feels so incredibly amazing. It can actually change your life. Like somebody believing you, even just one person believing in you can literally change your life. The first book I'm going to talk about is Bodywork by Melissa Febos. This book was given to me because I've decided that I wanted to start writing. I hadn't thought about reading instructional books about writing. However, for really good writers, if they do happen to write a book about writing, there's usually so much heart and narration in them. Another one that I really love is Stephen King's On Writing, which is a classic and it sold a bajillion. But this book is about writing memoir and about using yourself and your lived experience in your writing. There's a lot of personal narration throughout this. This might be more personal narration than actual writing instruction, but through that personal narration, you learn a lot about how you would write of the self if that were the type of story that you were looking to write. Melissa Febos also has other memoir works, so you can see what she's talking about in this book in those other stories. And what's even funnier about this is that my husband bought me this because he knew of my dream of writing and he's always supported it. But on top of that, Melissa Febos is very liberal, like very liberal. I lean way more left than my husband does, and I don't think that he realized just how perfect of a book this was. But again, like I said, that alchemical reaction, when somebody knows you and then they buy something for you, not for them, it becomes magical. This was a really great book. Okay, now our second great book gift idea is a book for your secret obsessions. And when I say secret obsession, it could be any kind of obsession. It could be something that isn't exactly acceptable. Maybe you're like a triple X Spice Girly. It's the next best thing from the newest, hottest, spicy author. But it could also be a secret obsession because it's like a little quirky, a little weird. You don't just tell everybody that you've kind of been obsessed with this story and how it's going to end and the couple at the middle of the story for 20 years. And that's my type of obsession. I am talking about Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. I have read every book in the series. I have not watched the show because I'm always disappointed by those things. I think I watched a couple of episodes, but I have been nervous. My friend and I have been nervous for a very long time about getting the end of this story because Diana Gabaldon takes 5 years to write every book, and there are a lot of books in this series. Diana Gabaldon has said publicly to please stop speculating on her death and her completion of these novels, so I will not do that here. But I love Outlander. I love everything about it. I love Jamie and Claire. FYI, my aunt just read these and she hates Claire. Heartbreak. I don't even know. I didn't realize I didn't know that woman the way I thought I did. So for Christmas, my husband got me the Outlander kitchen book. Now, if you've read Outlander, you know that the food and the natural world and medicine are the three extra characters inside of that story. The story is about a woman who time travels through standing stones in Scotland accidentally and ends up in the 1700s. She leaves her husband behind, and then she's trying to escape back this whole time to her time, which was the 1940s. She had just gotten out of World War II. She had came out of it a field nurse. Going into the 1700s, she knows more than most of the doctors there. And also the detail about food is woven throughout the entire story. Diana Gabaldon loves a medical procedure as much as she loves an 18th century cook's kitchen. So this is the approved cookbook. She writes the foreword. It tells little stories right before each section. These are portions taken directly out of the story. And it's all the food that they either talk about or that plays a part or that might have been in existence at that time. I think they did the might have been portion to fill it out. It's also foods that are inspired by the story. Have I looked through this entire thing? Yes. Am I likely to cook anything from it? I am not sure. There are a couple things that I was like, that might not be too bad. But I'm not in any rush. This is to have because I love the story. But I don't know how much I want to make kale bros with bacon, However, that doesn't mean I love it any less because this is something that only somebody who loves the story as much as I do would find so delightful that it would bring me this much joy. I love it. I'm going to have it forever. The next great gift for the book-loving baddie in your life is a book that shows that you pay attention. I don't know how many I've posted, but how many jokes, reels, whatever exist online about a book person ranting on and on to the loved one in their life about their latest book obsession and how heated we get. Let me tell you what happened. And so there are times where I will read an author who will make me think in ways that I hadn't thought of before. And I usually share that stuff with you guys, but I share it with you guys later, right? In real time, my husband has to deal with these brain explosions that are happening. And I'm like, you won't believe this. You have to read this. Now, in this particular circumstance, this author was so good. And the first book I read of his was so incredible that my husband did read it. And it was short. So that was probably part of why he was down to take the risk. And he loved him very much too. I'm talking about Ta-Nehisi Coates. So cut to some years later, Ta-Nehisi writes a fiction story called The Water Dancer. He comes to talk about it in Miami. Which I got tickets to for the both of us to go. And by the way, if you get tickets, you get a free book. So surprise, surprise to, I think my birthday, I'm not sure what the gift was for, but I opened up a gift and it was The Water Dancer that he had gotten for me so that when we went to the reading, we then had 3 collective Water Dancer books. Now, if it had been Between the World and Me, which was the first book of his that we had read, I would have been like, great, 3 more that I need in my life. and maybe even give them to people that I love. The Water Dancer, while it is a good book, let me read to you what it is so I don't mess it up. Young Hiram Walker was born into bondage. When his mother was sold away, Hiram was robbed of all memory of her, but was gifted with a mysterious power. So begins an unexpected journey that takes Hiram from the corrupt grandeur of Virginia's proud plantations to desperate guerrilla cells in the wilderness, from the coffin of the Deep South to dangerously idealistic movements in the North. So it's set in America during slavery, and there's a lot of magic in the story. Now, I would call that magical realism versus fantasy because it is more in the tradition of our ancestors accessing the magic within them, the beliefs and the belief systems that existed at that time that pulled on the power of human beings. You see that in a lot of Hispanic writers, and Ta-Nehisi is accessing African traditions in his telling, which Hispanic roots are African too. So that combination sounds very interesting, and he's such a good writer that I was really excited to read this. The only thing I will say is that for a regular writer, this is a really great book. Because of the level of his writing ability in nonfiction, my expectations were so high, it didn't live up to them. But it's still not a bad story. And if you love him, he just released last year, I think, a book about Palestine, which he was gonna talk in Miami again, and I had tickets, and it was canceled because of a hurricane. But he's a really important voice right now and always, and anything of his that you can find, you should definitely read. So the fourth gift type that is perfect for the book lover in your life is a whimsical gift. Because us book lovers are given to whimsy, we're given to fantasy lands and pretend, and these journeys that we take often alone in our minds. And so if you know something of the whimsy of the book lover in your life, and you give something to them that speaks to that, again, it's just magic. You can't help but win. And who else embodies whimsy better and more ridiculously than Martha Stewart? Martha Stewart is ridiculous, and in such a fabulous way. The things that she does around entertaining and presentation, this kind of ostentatious, purposeful display of food, ambiance, the whole setting is literally a story, right? She's telling a story with the food, with the decorations, with the setting, the places she chooses to do things. She's a storyteller for sure, and she likes taking people to faraway lands. Now, again, this is a cookbook. I love cookbooks. There's layers, right? So this is a dual gift of speaking to whimsy and also speaking to you're paying attention, because I love cookbooks. I actually cook from my cookbook. Some people like cookbooks. Book people collect vintage cookbooks, which you can't often cook those recipes because they're not the healthiest these days. I have some of those. The majority of my books are actual cookbooks that I cook out of. This is not one of those because one, Martha does a lot of like large scale entertaining in here. This is the cookbook, which is her 100 favorite recipes. It was for an anniversary. What I love the most about this isn't the recipes. It is the stories that she tells with her recipes, because she's like, when I was on my 4,000 acre estate in July, the raspberries would always be spectacular. So I had to put them in a rhubarb pie. That's not verbatim from in here, but you guys get it. The other part of this is that she's been doing this for a really long time, and she's been really good at it. And so there are snippets of her professional journey and her life story throughout this cookbook. She was a model before she was Martha Stewart. And she talks about it, and then she shows these cute little pictures of her as a model. How adorable is that? So whimsy doesn't have to be like ridiculous in the silly sense. It can just be like whatever it is that takes your book lover's fancy, you know? Maybe one day I will have a party and I will make Martha's cocktails for 38 people. I don't know. This is another one that I will have forever. It's adorable. I also collect her vintage cookbooks. The artistry in them is just incredible. But she was a high-level artist way before other cookbook peoples were realizing that that was an important part of the cookbook world. Because when she first started, it was a lot of like empty pages just with a lot of text. She brought the pizzazz. Okay, we've got 2 left. We've got 2 chances to get it right, guys. These 2 are the simpler ones. I feel like you don't have to know the person like super well, but it will still touch their heart. They'll still tell all their friends. You will not believe what I got, right? So number 5 is a practical gift. A practical gift in that you know the outside things about somebody. Like, I know you like trucks, and I got you a book full of the most beautiful truck pictures from antique Fords going back to 1920. I told you guys I'm a good gift giver, right? Like, that's just another level. I gotta say, a practical gift in that you know my politics and you know I love the Obamas. Michelle wrote a memoir. You got it for me. That simple. That simple, guys. It doesn't have to be that complicated. You know, I love the woman. I love the family. You got the book. Look how easy I made that. Look how easy I made that. This is Michelle's first book. I believe she's written another one since then. This was her memoir post White House. And I loved this book. I actually put off reading it for a while. I do not know why. I love Barack more than I love Michelle. I'm not going to lie to you. And I've read all of the books that he's written except for his one after his presidency. And so I don't know if I just felt sad and I didn't want to let them go. But this was surprising in that I thought it was just going to be a version of her life at the White House. But this goes all the way back and tells us stuff about her politics and how that informed Barack's politics and how her connections actually in Chicago went far deeper, aided Barack in his road to the White House. I don't know if he would have been successful without Michelle, which we already knew regardless. Like, we knew that he was successful because of her, because she was strong in supporting him. But one, I didn't realize that she was his mentor in the law firm. Hello, inappropriate. From her father having been so involved with the Democratic Party throughout all of her childhood. Now, this was a part of him having been in a union, but she was still exposed to the process in a way that I don't feel like Barack was. So even when it's a figure that you feel like you know quite a bit about, I feel like memoirs still teach you so many things there's no way that you would have known. Like, you can't know the full story just from the internet or from documentaries or from interviews or anything like that until you read the actual book. Our last, number 6, our great, spectacular, wonderful type of book gift to give to a book person is a special gift. This can be a special edition of something they already love. This can be a beautiful version that maybe has pop-outs. A lot of companies are doing that these days. I have fairy tales that have beautiful illustrations that have been redone. That also can be a signed copy of a book by someone you know that your book lover loves. Andre Leon Talley. Now, if you know me as a book girly, you might not know that I am also a fashion lover, especially shoes. My husband knows this. And he knows that I love Andre Leon Talley and that I listened to his last book that he wrote before he passed away. I also watched the documentary that came out. And so he knew that I did not have this one, which was his first book. He found it signed by Andre himself. And he has driven me crazy about not hurting this book since the day he gave it to me. This is the second time I've gotten a special edition. My aunt also got me some Harry Potter special editions years ago. They were not signed, but they were first editions. And if they were signed these days, it might devalue them. Anyways, the book itself is kind of like if you read work when he was on Vogue as an editor and the whimsical style of the way that he told stories. This entire book is basically that. It talks about the two most important women in his life, his grandmother and Diana Vreeland, and he tells a story of coming up and his childhood and his eventual success through his relationships with those women. And so this could actually fall in whimsy to a certain degree. I love it because he signed it, because it was his first book, because of the thought that went into giving it to me. The actual story I did not love. I think that telling that kind of overblown story-like tale fits if it's a couple of pages inside of a magazine. For a book, it just seems like there's a lot of him that I knew nothing about by the end of the book. It was very, very on the surface, very him cultivating an image of who he wanted everyone to see him as. And I understand that, right? Like, nobody has the right to your story. You don't have to give them all the truth of yourself. That's yours. But as a reader, what he was giving us wasn't necessarily either well written enough or valuable enough for it to have made an entire book. And it's a pretty short book, but it could have been an essay. And I say that with so much love. Now, I want to close this out by saying something. If the idea of buying you books makes your loved ones so nervous that they just can't do it, that it's just not a good idea in their mind. I get it, because listen, nobody in my life buys me shoes. It's dangerous, and we don't, okay? The other thing that I do that I think works very well is I have a TBR of things I want to buy for myself. That's besides the actual giant TBR that I already own. So I have a running list when I go to bookstores, when I see something online, or when something's coming out, I will put it on this list and I'll say that I'm gonna get it at some time. So when I do go to bookstores, I have direction and I'm not just buying things, right? Unless I'm traveling and then I want something from that place and I don't pay attention to the list. Anyways, I have this list. And so for Christmas, what I do is I take screenshots of the list at different sections and I send those screenshots to the people in my life. And you can pick a book from your section. And that way I don't know what it is. So it's a surprise, but guaranteed to be something that I wanted. Problemo solved-o. And you don't have to end up with more socks. See how I fixed that for you? You're welcome. I hope this was helpful. The next video is going to be about TikTok and whether or not it fooled me again. I know guys, I did it to myself. I did it again. I said, people are still loving these TikTok books. I did buy more of them. Let's take the risk and read them and see if TikTok fooled me again. You gotta watch the next video to find out if it did. All right, book friends, happy book buying, happy present getting. Hope this helped you for your next birthday, holiday, gift day, whatever present days get sprinkled on your life. And thanks for coming here and being with me for this video, because you are my gift. Bye guys.